on blast.
I feel like we have to rename this podcast from You Killed It to the Bad Boy Entertainment podcast. Because the challenge, All Stars, once again, starting with a Bad Boy Entertainment song. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but first, I'm John Shidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander. And I will say, quite possibly, my favorite song ever, or at least my favorite song of my childhood, is Only You, 112, featuring Biggie and Mace. Like, again, I wasn't even really paying attention to what was happening during the scene. I was just jamming out and realizing, I haven't listened to this song in a really long time. But if I really think about it, you know, it's a great song. And it just sums up that era of, remember, you needed the R&B song with the rap hook, right? Or not the rap hook, but the rap verse as well. Where's this music anymore? We don't make this music anymore. We don't make good music anymore. This is my get off my lawn moment. I'm an old man. Great music. They don't make love music anymore.
They don't. Right? This
everything now, these kids today, everything is about just shaking that ass and hoes and bitches and blah, 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 blah. That's all we talk about now in the music today. Where's the love music? Where's the love making music? Where's the baby making music?
This is You Killed It, the baby making podcast.
That ends my TED Talk.
Oh, no, we're just getting warmed up because I have thoughts on 112. And this, Sheldon, you and I don't always agree on music. I'm still stinging from your derisive comments about Jump Around. But man, 112, kids, listeners, if you're not familiar with 112 and you have a relationship, a romantic relationship, maybe not even romantic, but you have a relationship that you want to take to a new physical dimension. You want to take things to the next level. Put on some 112. They are so good.
I dare anyone listening right now to go onto their Apple Music playlist, find the 112 Essentials playlist, and sit still and listen to that. I dare you.
So Only You is your favorite 112
song? Probably, yeah. But I mean, you know, I also watched recently, and by recently, I mean within the past year, because everything's a blur. There was this thing on, I want to say Complex, where they would interview just people from like behind the scenes people. So producers, and there's this producer, and I'm totally forgetting his name right now, but he was a kid and he wrote the song Peaches and Cream. And he was talking about how he made the song, and it was shocking because at first people are like, hold on, you're a kid and you wrote this song Peaches and Cream that, you know, in case you're in the car with kids, is not really about peaches and cream. It's talking about, we'll say that.
We're talking about the emojis peaches and the euphemism cream.
Correct. So that was the first stunner when my guy writes this song and the label's kind of like, we can't put this song out. We can't play this on the radio. And they argued back being like, well, if the people who know what it means, you're going to be fine with it. And the people who don't know, we're not going to explain it to them anyways. So it'll just be Peaches and Cream. And hey, it's a great song. That's a catchy ass song. But there's great, again, the 112 Essentials playlist. If you bring that up, hit after hit after hit after hit.
It's Dance With Me that I really like.
It's great.
It's Over Now. It's Over Now is the 112 song.
And they have that beat. Is that the Quiet Storm beat?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great song. It's Over Now that might be in my top 3, if not maybe number 2, but that is up there for sure. Great song.
And shout out to Puff Daddy, who's like, okay, I have these killer, like, gangster rap wasn't quite the term yet, but I've got Craig Mack and the Notorious B.I.G. who have real gritty, grimy rhymes. But I'm going to go out and get Mace, who's like a fun, like dance, like goofy guy. And then 112, just like a killer R&B group. And I'm just going to have them all appear on each other's songs forever.
I feel like pretty sure that Only You is Mace's debut on Bad
Mhm.
Boy. I'm pretty sure.
It is.
So yeah, I mean, for that alone, that's a great track. And that Biggie verse is just amazing. It's a great song. But we could
Mhm.
probably do this whole pod just talking about that song and the 112 playlist. I know that I probably could, because, you know, another thing during the pandemic was the 112 versus Jagged Edge verses, which was
Yeah.
just great night of music. Again, they don't make love making music anymore. Yo, my text messages that night filled with people being like, "Oh, what's going on?" I was like, "Yo, homegirl, chill out. Like, I get it. I understand. I get it." But there's a lot of arguments going on about 112 versus Jagged Edge and who you like more. And I'm like, I'm learning a lot about a lot of y'all tonight. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But as I said, we could go on for way too long on this. Let's get to the actual challenge here.
Okay, I have one more thought about 112. I was talking to a lady friend recently,
Okay.
and I was telling her, you can guess how this came up conversationally, but I was telling her about how wonderful 112 is. She's
Okay.
like, I don't know them. I'm like, don't worry. Once we're vaccinated, I
What
will
is
show
going
you
on
what
right
112 is
what is going on right now? Okay.
about.
What is happening right now?
So I'm just saying, I believe your story, Sheldon. That's all I'm saying.
I don't have a response to that. Other than, hey, Katie and Joanna are talking about how they feel. Talking about how they feel. Because no one wants to go into elimination with them as a partner. Is that how this started?
Yeah, that's how we got here,
So
right?
basically it was like, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. If we put on our serious hats on for like 2.5 seconds, Katie and Joanna, why do I mispronounce her name all the
John
time?
A. I'm
John A.
trying to be
Why do I
kind
say
to you,
your
but
name's Joanna? I did that last episode too, I feel like. But
yeah,
anyways, John A. and Katie are talking about the fact that this might work in their benefit because no one's going to pick them to go in an elimination with them. Like, what guy would want to be like, hey, I'm going to pick you to be my partner in this elimination that I need to win? And John A., it was interesting, right? Because I think that actually might be a good strategy. And it's a great point. It's very interesting. And I never even thought of it on that angle. And that's why I think this season is pretty good, because there's still so many different angles and so many different twists and turns and strategies that I think it's great.
I agree. I agree. The other thing that I think is great, speaking of 112, is Latarian and
Wow.
Anissa
Fair.
are also getting adult friendly.
Fair.
They're also, at one point, she calls him her Later bear,
Yeah.
which is so funny to think of like big, gruff Latarian as
Mhm.
Later bear. We get to the daily competition, and I have to tell you, like, I love TJ Lavin. You love TJ Lavin. Everyone
Yeah.
loves TJ. But never have I identified with him because he makes a joke about like uh, Paramount being the most. You're already shaking your head, and no one like laughs at it. So he over explains the joke, and it feels like how I feel when I make a joke to you, and you just go, "What are we doing here?"
I
And
was
I
so
was like, "TJ,
disappointed.
you get me."
No, I was so disappointed in TJ. I rep TJ. I rep TJ a lot. But in this moment, I was like, really, man? Like, come on. The joke was whack, first off. And then anytime you have to explain the joke, it's not a good joke. And then he explained it and then like laughed on his own, like, huh, see what I did there? See what I did there? It's like, come
I'm
on,
Team
bro.
TJ because I do that both on this podcast and in real life. I don't abandon jokes. No joke left behind. If people don't laugh at my joke, maybe I have to help them out. And at least I can laugh at my joke. That's
That's
my
fair.
attitude.
That's fair. So this challenge, 4 teams of 4, you got to go in, you're standing on a platform, you have to put the puzzle pieces together and solve a puzzle before the floor below you breaks and you fall through into the water. How about this? Another we're above water type challenge. Bad news for Katie, right? Bad news for Katie.
I,
So,
I really like this competition in all
yeah, oh, for
sincerity.
sure. Agreed. My
I
only
like it.
question I had was I wondered, did we know what order they would fall down in? Because that would set up a strategy for me that I didn't really think they had.
No, I think it was in a random order.
Okay. Because
At
I
one
thought that
point,
was good.
at one point it seemed like they were sort of like, if you're in the box, it seemed like they were working left to right. But that
Okay.
wasn't always the case. Sometimes someone to the right like would go
Yeah.
first.
So the other interesting part of this was the picking of the captains, because automatically if you lose, your captain is going in. And so you had to pick a male and female captain, which is also big because obviously you're both going in if you lose. So I thought it was interesting in terms of how each team kind of broke down who was going to be captain. And Big Easy and Latarian basically did rock, paper, scissors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ruthie just volunteered because John A is like, I want nothing to do with being a captain, which, hey, good strategy. Darrell and Kellyanne, I thought was interesting strategy because Kellyanne realized right away, she's like, once Darrell said he was going to be captain, she's like, oh, I'll be captain as well. Because she realized it would be smart that if you do lose, at least I'm going into the elimination with a really good partner.
Yeah.
It's very
Which is
smart.
Very smart. Very smart of Kellyanne.
Yeah. Katie and Yes, I thought was very interesting. And Katie's basically deciding to be the captain because she knows she was going to struggle at this. And she didn't want anyone else to take the fall for her. Again, interesting strategy, right?
It was noble strategy because she's like, I'm probably gonna freeze up there because I keep falling from water and it like messes me up.
Mm-hmm.
So since I'm not gonna, yeah, as you said, since Katie's logic was since she could not carry the weight, she's like, I'm not gonna have someone else suffer for my inability to perform in this kind of competition. Yeah. It was noble. I get it. Sure.
And then Kendall and Mark were the captains of the last team. And which is interesting because they kind of have a little beef going on against each other, but hey, they're going to figure out how it was going to work.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because we've praised Kendall on this show, on You Killed It, for being one of the more athletic female competitors on this season. Mm-hmm. But she's very divisive, like within the house and within the World of Challenge cast members. Because she's on Twitter. In fact, I think she follows me on Twitter. And I'm not trying to brag. But
that sounded like a humble brag.
Let me finish my thought and we can judge if it's a humble brag. But she's sort of been lobbied to come back on the show for some time. And like she was really only on the challenge for like a coffee previously. Like she's very loosely defined as an all-star. And she also like picks a lot of Twitter fights with like contemporary cast members. So it's interesting. Like this feels like she's almost getting a kind edit because it seems like there's people in the house who sincerely do not like her.
Yeah.
And Mark is certainly one of them. And you have to assume that where Mark goes, Derrick goes. Yeah. And like I have seen Kendall get into like Twitter scraps with people well before being on the show.
Okay.
So it's interesting because like she's come to play and she wanted this. Like, she wanted to be on the show. Mm-hmm. And yet she's not like if it was all of like popularity contest, she would not be winning. So it's a real interesting dynamic surrounding her because also everyone like recognizes that she's very good in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair. Definitely fair. Again, very early on, my line of the episode goes to Darrell, who describes standing on the platform, and he says, both my legs are stanky. If you don't know what that is, it's a dance, and your legs are shaking. So for people who don't know, just quick YouTube of do the stanky leg. I'm not going to sing it, but if you know, you know.
Yep.
That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got.
I really liked the visual of people like working away on their puzzle and then being gone. Mm-hmm. Like the way they drop is so quick and dramatic. And like the first time it happens is, I think it was the first time, Gisela is working away on her puzzle. Alton's beside her. And then suddenly he's not. And it's funny because so she's like working away on her puzzle. trapdoor opens, Alton falls, Gisela glances over and then immediately like puts her hands on her life, her PFC, her life jacket, and just like braces. She's like, "Oh no, I'm next," and then like she's not immediately next.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
also I don't want to rag on her because I understand why Katie is so scared,
Mhm.
but it's also hilarious how scared Katie is. Like,
Yeah.
she like gets up there, puts her puzzle pieces like on the mat, and then just like holds onto her
Yeah.
life
She didn't
jacket
even
and just
attempt to do anything. Like she was so terrified, she didn't even attempt to do anything. But I finally realized that Katie reminded me of someone for so long, and I couldn't figure out who it was since the season started until watching this episode. Do you know who Sophia Bush is?
yeah,
Brooke from One Tree Hill.
yeah.
Are we familiar with One Tree Hill? We're going on a deep dive here, but this is what we do
Sheldon,
on these shows.
how did we go from 112 to One Tree Hill? Who are we? What
From
lives have
112 to
we?
One Tree Hill. That is the You Killed It podcast, man. That's a promo right there. But the thing is, right? I was like, who does she look like? And she looks so much like what Sophia Bush looks like now. It was just tripping me out. But if we're talking like childhood here, ooh, childhood crush on Brooke from One Tree Hill. I'm just saying that was just a thing. That was just a thing. I don't know. But yeah, Katie looked like her, like grown up her. But I was just going back like that. It's like it took me back to like early 2000s, late 90s with this whole One Tree Hill / 112 stuff going on. Yeah, man. Just had me in a vibe. That's all.
Katie, this was not my line of the episode, but Katie said, "I didn't get hurt, and that's more important than winning to me." And you
It's
know
fair.
what? I get it. I understand where she's coming from.
I respect that logic. I do want to just tag that with one more line, though. I remember someone saying to me before, they're like, "You watched One Tree Hill?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was like a teen drama based off a basketball team that actually was filmed at Michael Jordan's actual high school." Like, yes, of course. Like, speak to my soul here. Like, what are we talking about right now? Anyways, yeah, Katie, it was bad for her. Kendall, I think, was very interesting. And I think Kendall was interesting because in a completely different way. She did her puzzle, but it was upside down. And now you have to make a decision on, wait a second. Are they going to judge me for my puzzle being upside down, or do I try to flip it around? But if I try to flip it around, is there enough time for me to do that before I drop? And if I drop while messing it up, do I get half a mark for at least I completed it, but it's upside down? But did you really complete it if it's upside down? That's kind of a who's on first, right?
It is. I think Kendall was guilty of overthinking it though, because to turn it the right way around is not rocket science, right? You just go piece by piece and turn it 180 degrees. And like, I don't know, like how slippery they were, and like maybe her hands were sweaty or whatever. You could like I think there was 16 pieces. You could probably do that in 30 seconds, right? Like 2 seconds per piece.
Yeah.
You could probably do it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she's just super afraid, right? That was really part of it too.
Yeah.
The funny thing to me though, of every single person that did this, Big Easy was the only person to complete the puzzle.
Well, he's not bad at puzzles. And like,
true, but like only one person of everybody that had a chance. And I get that a lot of people got eliminated early. 4 people get wiped out early. I get that. But still, one person?
well, and it's big for Big Easy because his name has regularly been mentioned.
As it should.
As it should. Because he's seen as, at this point among the men, the biggest layup. Because like, who are you going to go against? Alton? No thanks. Yeah. Nehemiah? No thanks. Mark? Derrick? Like, the list of apparently easier gets on the men's side is getting shorter and shorter. So huge win for Big Easy. Ruthie being his co-captain. They're both safe this week.
Yeah.
also good for Ruthie because she's so opinionated
Hmm.
and open openly hostile to some people that I could see, and smaller than most of the
Hmm.
other women. I could see her being an easy target week after week too. So like,
Yeah.
good for both of them for getting that win. I mean, it all falls on Big Easy's shoulders, and it's nice to see him show, like, be able to accentuate the positive and show how he is competitive.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And the losing team was the black team, which was Kendall and Mark. So they're going right into the elimination, which again is interesting because they got beef. So the deals to me would be so much more interesting now because, you know, the stakes are that much higher. And Kendall is trying to decide. Mark leaves it to her because it's theoretically a women's elimination, even though he's on the block as well, which is weird. But anyways, he leaves it to Kendall. But actually, I take that back. He did clarify. He's like, he feels confident against any of the guys, so it doesn't really matter. So he's going to let Kendall pick the girl. Is that what it was? Do I have that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He
So
left it up to Kendall to pick.
Kendall basically, she's confused. She doesn't know what she wants. She kind of leaves it up to the group and says, "Hey, I'll let the group vote." But then when the group goes to vote, Katie just nominates herself again. And Jemmy says that she doesn't get it at all. And she goes on this epic rant that ended with time to get out of parent mode and into savage challenge mode, which I think Jemmy is being a little harsh on Katie because I think what Katie's doing is actually really good, right? Like, I get what Jemmy is saying, but at the end of the day, if Katie knows that she basically did a horrible job and she's saying it's not fair for one of the other women to have to go in when she blatantly didn't even try, I think there's something honorable about that. I'm not going to knock her for that.
I agree. I hear what you're saying, but I agree with Jemmy. You can't bring If you want to be successful at the challenge, you
Mhm.
can't necessarily bring real world values or character to the table. And you're right. What Katie did was noble, right? And like, that was her intention of being her team's captain because she knew she was going to freeze. And then she did freeze. And
Mhm.
like, you're absolutely right. What she did was noble. It was the right thing to do if you want to be like an upstanding citizen. It's not the right thing to do if you want to win the challenge, though.
So here's my other twist to this. Because I think on the flip side, Katie also is going in knowing she's going in against Kendall, who is someone who is somewhat her size. And so she
True.
has a bit of a chance. I think that might also be part of the strategy here in terms of volunteering to go in because she would have it in her mind, if you line her up against some of the other girls, if this happens to be a physical challenge, she has no chance against like, Anissa or Yesella or something like that, right? So in that instance, it kind of makes sense. And I get that. I really get that. My question here, though, I have a
Well,
question for you.
I was just gonna say that Katie's ideal matchup is Ruthie, but Ruthie's not on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, though, Kellyanne brings this up. And then here's what I don't understand the guys. Why would the guys agree to just let Katie put herself in? If the guys know that there's a good chance that one of them could be going in.
Mm,
Right? That was a part that I thought didn't get as much attention. And Kellyanne did bring it up, but then they kind of just swept over it. But strategy wise, if you were the guys, maybe you're like, because I think Darrell was the one that was like, okay, yeah, Katie, we'll let you go in. Just don't pick me.
yeah,
And he said it as if he was joking, but he's being well, actually, no, it's Darrell. He didn't say it as if he was joking. He said it in Darrell,
yeah.
which means it was really serious.
Darrell doesn't kid. He's a very funny person, but like, he says what he means at all times.
Yeah,
And
totally.
we see that extended when they're partying. Every guy basically is going up to Katie and it's like, "Hey, don't pick me." And like, Derek goes to the lengths of like making fake crutches and putting like a fake bloodied bandage around his head to
Yeah.
show, to be like, oh, I'm hurt and injured. You don't want me. And eventually, Letarian sort of volunteers and he comes over to Katie, who I gather he's friends with in real life. And he's just like, listen, I find it's embarrassing that all these guys are like politicking you. If you pick me, I'll be cool with it.
Mhm.
He's like, I'm gonna come over because you're my friend, and like we'll talk and have a drink. But like, I'm not shook, and like
Yeah.
I figure I'll stand up and go in. Like I didn't come on the show to not compete.
Yeah. So
Which
I think Derrick's doing too much, right? Like it
Derrick,
just looked horrible. Again, doing a bad Johnny Bananas impersonation in terms of trying to produce her the show, knowing that it'll get in, but yeah, doing too much. I also didn't like that they used that shot in some of the trailers
yeah,
and promo stuff so that it kind of seemed as if, oh no, something happened to Derrick. He gets really hurt. This might be really tough. I didn't like that deception. The producer in me appreciates it. The viewer in me is like, nah, nah.
I have a hot take, and I have a sense that you might agree with me. Me, it's a lukewarm take. It's a take I'm working on. I think I don't like Mark, and I think I don't like Derrick.
No, that's fine. I don't like them either. I was rooting against them.
I don't. I agree with you that Derrick's doing too much, and this isn't the first time we've seen Derrick and Mark do
Mhm.
too much. And I've decided that, like with Mark, he's got that like counselor at a teenage rehab camp energy. You know what I mean?
Wow. Wow.
Like
It's very
he's,
descriptive. Okay.
but like you know what I'm saying? Like he wants to be liked, but he's also
Yeah.
always like has a lesson for everybody,
Mhm.
and like he's always like a little over the top, right? Like when he had everybody when he had the power with the lifesaver and he had everyone like he had Derrick go and get them and they had to like pretend like and like the fact that he calls himself the Godfather,
Yeah.
like
It's
it's
a lot.
not it's a lot. And like I think they're nice people,
Yeah.
but I don't like how it seems like they're both always inserting themselves into every situation.
Yeah. I like the fact that, in comparison, forget the gimmicks. Letarian's just like, I want the smoke. I like the competition. You should pick me. Forget about what these other guys are doing, messing with you and turning this into a huge joke. I get it. Ha ha ha. But no, I came here to compete. And I respect that. And that is also probably counter to Jemmy's whole thing about playing the challenge. But hey, I'm for people going into the elimination on their own accord. And Letarian's like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go. And Katie is nervous and she decides she's trying to decide who she wants to put it, who she's going to go in with. And she had a decision where she thought it was coming down to Letarian or yes. But she did bring up the fact that she's going to feel like a dirt bag, her words, not mine, if she loses. And to me, again, that's what makes this game so amazing. So they get down there and you could tell right away what it is. And of course, you have to pick Letarian once you see that it's like a tug of war, right? Because you need someone who has a chance against Mark. But I
It's
will
not just
say,
sorry, finish your thought and then I have something to add to that.
no, 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 go on, because it's kind of random.
I was just gonna say you also have to pick Letarian because you want someone who's mentally prepared and motivated.
Yeah.
And I know his like I wouldn't even quite call it volunteering, but the fact that he basically went to her and was like, if you pick me, you're gonna get 100% from me.
Yeah.
You need that. You don't want someone who's like, I thought I could like, oh, I don't want to do like you don't want anyone that is halfway committed. Like you want someone who's fully committed. And
Agreed.
Letarian has said that he is and is mentally prepared to like go in and do some work.
Nope. Agreed. Totally agree. Um, so yeah, Katie ends up picking Letarian, and it is a tug of war, but they call it pull me over. You're standing on the tree stump. You got to pull the ropes. And of course, I know most people watching this, obviously you go right back to Jordan and Josh, right? Like that's the thing that comes to mind.
One of the best eliminations ever.
Yeah. So I wondered about the strategy, and there's one thing that I found weird about this. I thought they filmed it odd. And I felt like,
I'm
excuse
nodding
me,
for those who are just listening to this. I'm nodding to what Sheldon's saying.
the way that it was filmed, it appeared to me as if they were just showing one person at a time. So you didn't really see, like, when you go back to the Jordan and Josh thing, you could see the chess match that was being moved where Jordan would kind of bait Josh into pulling. And there was a couple times where, Jordan kind of gave slack as if he was falling and Jordan and Josh was going to pull, but really Jordan was just giving him slack and Josh pulled himself right off. You didn't really see that chess match here. You only saw one person pulling or dropping the rope at a time. And I found that kind of weird because especially I think it was the first round where Laterrian, you can't see what Laterrian's doing, but you just see Mark drop it. And you hear Laterrian say, oh, but he dropped it first. So I was wondering, like, did Laterrian also fall, but Mark dropped it first? That's what it seemed like, but they never showed us that fully. I thought that was weird.
It was weird. And Laterrian, when he said, oh, he dropped it first, Laterrian was off his podium. So you're right that presumably Mark dropped the rope and Laterrian fell in short succession.
Yeah.
But it's so weird because they did a masterful job doing that with Josh and Jordan. Mm-hmm. Was that 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago? And it's interesting, presumably to some degree, it's the same editors or like it's some of the production staff is the same. And it's weird that they did not do as good a job in terms of like visually telling us what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it was also interesting to me, like Jordan, when he beat Josh, it was a masterclass. Like Jordan's a smaller person with one hand.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot to be learned from how he did that. And it's clear that all 4 of them didn't learn any lessons from that. Maybe they've never even watched it.
I think Mark, you could kind of see there were moments where he was giving up slack and trying to like bait Laterrian. You could kind of see that, but still not, you didn't get the full experience, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So yeah, Katie and Laterrian win round 1, but then next 2 rounds was Mark and Kendall winning. And you could tell that everyone was gassed by round 3. I thought Katie had a great strategy in round 2 when she realized Laterrian fell off and she was like, I'm just going to try to save some energy for the 3rd round. There's no point in me trying to fight this now for no reason, which I thought was smart, but it didn't really matter. There was not enough. They didn't have anything else left in the tank. And I realized while watching this, like I really wanted Laterrian and Katie to win.
Yeah,
and it's not even that. And I realized it wasn't because of Kendall. Like I actually liked Kendall. I thought Kendall did a great job in this season so far. And, she's been a pretty good character. Like, I don't think she's been too annoying or too out there or whatever. So I thought that was interesting, but I really was rooting against Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. As I was saying, like in my notes, it actually says, do I dislike Mark? I kind of think so. And like, it's not like, we both have strong reactions to some cast members every season, right? Like we have strong reactions to Josh and Fessy and Nelson. Like there's some people where we're just immediately like, nah, we're not about this. But like,
yeah,
I want to like Mark, but there's just something like disingenuous about him. There's something like
no, I think it's just him just him and Derek doing too much to kind of be the leads of the show, right? Like they're always in every single episode, like going up to people and being like, hey, what's going, like they're just too much to keep the 90s references going. They're too much. Remember the Suge Knight thing where he's on stage at the MTV Awards or whatever it is. And he's like, all the producers all up in the videos. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's like Mark and Derrick too much all up in the videos. Like chill, sit back a little, come to death row. No, I'm joking.
I also think that just like as we're talking, Mark is
sorry. I just realized there's going to be a bunch of people listening to this episode that are going to be like, yo, what are you guys talking about?
I imagine there's people that are like that every episode of You Killed It.
It's fair.
I also think, just as we're talking, and maybe this is unfair of me, but Mark and Derrick are both in exceptional shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alton's in really good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Kendall and Kellyanne are in really good shape. But most of these people are not in their prime fitness.
No.
And I'm not saying that as a criticism. Their moms, their dads, they're in their 40s,
Mm-hmm.
late 30s, 40s, maybe even. Are any in their 50s? That can't be. Certainly in their 30s and 40s.
I think
Sorry?
Beth's in her 50s. I think Beth said something about being 50.
And like Mark and Derrick were the real motivators behind this show, right? Like Mark, this is basically Mark's baby.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what's it say about someone where they're in like ridiculous shape and they're like, I want to compete against people that are not in ridiculous shape? You know what I mean? like it's a great idea and I'm enjoying the show, but like it's just a little weird. You know what
No,
I'm
I
saying?
got you. I got you. Totally get you.
I'm also very excited to hear what our listeners think of our comments because Mark and Derrick are popular guys and among fans. So tell us, listener,
But
do
this
you
is just
agree with
about
us?
like, I don't know, everything I'm saying right now, everything I think you're saying right now, like this is just based off what I'm watching. Like I don't even know
Yeah,
anything about these dudes and what they do outside. I've never listened to their show, not because like I don't listen to other challenge podcasts, but like I don't listen to other challenge podcasts. Like I just have no interest in it in doing that. I don't know. Right. Like I watch the show, I come, but also I don't listen because I don't want to have my opinion swayed in any way about stuff we come on and say. So that's
yeah, I do.
probably the real reason why I don't listen. But
That's why I
like,
don't listen
whatever.
typically. I sometimes go back and listen to older podcasts, but after we've recorded our podcast. But
Oh, I
that's
see what you're
rare.
saying.
But
Yeah, I don't.
exactly for what you're like. I don't want to be
My
too heavily
podcast
influenced.
playlist is too long as is. I can't be adding more podcasts. You know, there's a lot of Dan Lebitard for me to listen to every day. So,
um, but I do invite our listeners to let us know, how do you feel about Derrick and Mark? Do you agree with me and Sheldon that they're doing too much? That there's something a little off about their personalities, or do you rock with them, which is, fair, to each their own. But I don't know, there's something about them that I'm not drawn to that. Like straight up, Darrell's my favorite person on this season. Probably
never be mad
Anissa
at
after
Darrell.
him. Probs.
Yeah,
Uh, did you say, what was your line of the episode? Because I haven't said mine yet.
I gave it already. It was Darrell.
Right. My favorite line of the episode, which I think I'm going to apply to like my real life, is when Katie picks Latarian. He says, amongst other things, he says, she knows my heart doesn't pump Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
which is just like the perfect metaphor. And like, if I have the chance to use that phrase, I will use that phrase.
No, it was legit. Pretty good. Pretty dope.
Who killed it for you this week?
So I'm picking Latarian.
All right. Okay.
Just because I respect the way that people go out. And I guess it's more of a sign that I just don't like Mark. But I like the way that this went down, where Latarian he wanted to risk it all just because he didn't like the way that it was going down, with everyone like making this big, huge play to have Katie not pick them. But it was this whole like show and spectacle. Meanwhile, he's like, you know what, Katie, pick me. I'll rock with you. Let's go. I respect that. And he put up a really good fight. So I know it's kind of multiple weeks where I'm picking the people who don't win, but I don't care. It's who killed it for me. Who killed it for you, John?
I'm going with Jemmy because
Wow, okay.
Jemmy's playing to win. Jemmy understands what the challenge is in a way that seemingly no one else is. Like, she's still crushing it in the confessionals.
Mm-hmm.
She has a budding relationship with Nehemiah,
Okay.
which is, great. To each their own. You're there to have fun.
Yep.
But also, Jemmy knows, like, she's the most logical person in the house, and like I do respect how Katie and Latarian went about their business. It was noble. It did show character. It did show heart. Like I get all that, but they're there to get that money, and Jemmy consistently has her eye on that prize more than anyone else. And she's just like, and she's partly getting this MVP for me because last episode 5, she was the one that was like, hey, when TJ gets vague, you got to pay attention. Like something's coming. And so I just respect the way Jemmy's playing the game.
Okay.
And she also recognizes she's not the most physically dominant, but she's got the right mentality. She's got the right like spirit. She's got her like head on a swivel. So I think Jemmy's having a great season. And it's great to have her back because I'm just a Jemmy fan.
So I like Jemmy. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Jemmy. But I will say this to you, Mr. John Chidley Hill. The same things you just said about Derek and Mark in terms of maybe taking advantage and coming on to the season where, you know, a bunch of people who aren't really on challenges that much and they're coming in all shredded. I ask you, is it fair for Jemmy to do the same? Because one might argue, for playing devil's advocate, Jemmy can't really cut it, one might say, on the normal seasons of the challenge. And then she shows up in this and is, you know, running the house. And,
she's second youngest in the house, right? It's her and John A.
I'm just saying, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm just saying.
That's a fair point.
We'll let the listeners decide.
My counter argument is simply, Jemmy did not come up with the concept of this show.
Fair.
Mark did. So like Mark came up with this concept that seems tilted in his and his best friend's direction. Whereas Jemmy sort of saw it as like, okay, I can do this, right? Like it's a little different coming up with the idea and then taking advantage of someone else's idea.
Okay.
That's my counter argument. But you're right. Listeners, get at us. Yeah. You can get at us by Sheldon's now going to tell us what his social media is.
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram, Sheldon Alexander. Like and subscribe at the YouTube page, which is On Blast Podcast. No, it's not. It's Sheldon Alexander as well. The Twitch page is On Blast Podcast. Continue to like the pod. Subscribe to the pod, the You Killed It pod. Still rocking, still cooking. Even in the off season, we got you covered.
You're just making sure that people are paying attention, right? Like giving them all, trying to shake them off, make sure that they're paying attention to the YouTube page. I like it. You can get me on Twitter and Instagram at JChidleyHill. And until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it.